Thank you very much, Dean. Can you all hear me at the back? Can you all hear me? Most importantly, can you see me? So I'm a little bit small, okay? Before I get started, I just want to say a real thank you to Two Saints for asking me to come here today. Can I just ask people to keep the noise down a little bit? Yep. The reason why I'm kind of really quite honoured to come to Two Saints is because I was a Two Saints resident, okay? I was somebody that sleeps rough on the streets, and I was somebody that was also a dependent heroin user. And the reason why I've come along to speak to you today is because I want to inspire you so that you can maybe realise the opportunities that you have available today so that you too can live a different kind of life. Okay, so my talk, you all right over there, can you hear me? Yeah? Okay, so my talk is called Opportunity Knocks. And what it is every single one of you at the moment is in some part of Two Saints, which means that opportunity is knocking for you. It means that you can maybe have something that you thought that you could never have. I know this because, like I said, this is what kind of happened for me, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of an understanding of my story. So the reason I've got this fantastic accent is because I'm from Portsmouth, okay? And you all know this, I was born into what they called a dysfunctional family. Okay? And what that meant for me, that was my mum was a care leaver, okay? My mum was also a single parent with 4 children, and my mum also had some learning difficulties, which meant she wasn't able to give me the best love, care and nurture that she probably wanted to. But I also want to say this, I have an amazing relationship with my mum today, okay? Big up the mum. But what happened, because I kind of wasn't probably brought up in the best environment, I didn't really make the best choices growing up. Okay, and that meant for me that I kind of had a little turn of events. And that turn of events happened to me in this kind of chronological order, is what they like to say professionally. Chronology, I can't even say the word. It's that part of the day. That's the one, thank you very much. You can come up here next week. So, what that looked like for me was at the age of 11, I got my first criminal conviction. At the age of 12, I got expelled from school. And then I went into, I was in the care system, I went into lots and lots of care systems, started to run away from home, kind of pushed about all over the place. Criminality carried on. I got my first custodial sentence at 14 years of age. I got my second custodial sentence at the age of 15. Whilst everybody else was at school getting their exams, I was down in Portland. We all may have been there. Anyone been to Portland? We all loved the Portland. Okay. And then what that ended up doing was that ended up then leading me to spend 8 years of my adult life behind a prison wall. A dependency on heroin. Everything. She asked what I'd done. It's what I didn't do. There's more to the count. I developed a dependency on heroin. I destroyed every single relationship that came in my way, and I also ended up, like I said, sleeping rough on the streets and being in homeless hostels and just being trapped, absolutely trapped in a world that I couldn't get out of. But what happened for me is, I'm going to take you back now to the year 2000, and I was in Coldenley Prison. Anyone been in Coldenley Prison? Oh, come on, that's a great one, that is. Done about 11 over the time. We're going to do a little bit of a tour guide of the prisons around the country. They've got some good ones. All right? But I was in Coldenley Prison, and what happened was somebody came into the prison a little bit like me, of what I'm doing now, because I didn't think that anybody could change. I didn't think that anybody could get out of that way of living. And what happened was a fella came in, and when I first looked at him, a bit like you might look at me, think, what have I got in common with him? And then what he done was he talked about his life, a little bit like the life I just spoke about. But then he talked about another life. He talked about that he had a family. He talked about that he had his own home. He talked about that he had a car, he had a job, and he went on holidays. Do you know what? My jaw hit the floor, because I didn't think that was ever possible. because all I saw was all of my friends going in and out of prison and dying of overdoses. I absolutely did not believe that change was possible. And what that man did for me was he cracked a wall and planted a seed that said I could have a different life. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit what that looks like, because that is where all of you have got that opportunity now, because there's people in this room. Where's all the Two Saints staff? Put up your hands. These people can help you. They can help you. Okay? So what happened was I kind of realised, that actually I need to make some changes, but I don't know how to change. And I also had this thing called fear. People know about fear? Yeah? Fear, it cripples us. And I always say fear is what I call false evidence appearing real. Yeah? All right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story here quickly about fear and how powerful it is. So we all know about little Johnny, yeah? But little Johnny is a kid, yeah? And little Johnny is at school. And when he's at school, he's talking to his mates, and he hears one of his mates say to him he thinks there's a monster under his bed, yeah? He's heard this, a bit of information, that he thinks there's a monster under the bed. Anyway, he then reads a book, and he's reading this book, and this book, yeah, is about monsters. So he's got another bit of information. Then what happens, one night, he goes into his bedroom. Not your mate, not your bedroom. It was his own bedroom, yeah? He goes into his bedroom, yeah? And one night, he hears this funny noise. And he doesn't know what this noise is. And all of a sudden, because of this information he's heard from the people that he's associating with, because we all get our fear from the people we're associating with, and he's heard these two stories, and he thinks, maybe there's a monster under my bed. Then a car goes past, and a shadow goes across the wall. It's a shadow he hasn't seen before. Then he thinks, that's the shadow of the monster that's living under my bed. But this fear, these stories that we tell ourselves about how maybe sort of like we can't do what we want to do, yeah, are really, really powerful. So what happens is little Johnny has got the best mum in the world. His mum does absolutely everything for him. And then she comes in and she goes to turn the light out, and he goes, Mummy, don't turn the light out. She says, why? She says, because there's a monster under the bed. And even though he really loves his mum, and even though his mum takes care of him every single day, he does not believe what she says, because the fear in the mind, the story that he's told himself, is too powerful. That's the fear sometimes we have, because we can sometimes be trapped in a world where there's lots of people that say you can't change, or this can't happen, or once an addict, always an addict, and no one ever comes off the street. That is information that we're getting from the environments we're within. And then when these lovely people in Two Saints are saying, yes, you can change, we don't believe them. But what I'm also going to say, I'm going to finish the story off with Johnny, yeah? Because what I'm probably imagining is there's not many people in this room that will go to bed tonight and leave the light on because they're scared there's a monster under the bed. Okay, there's one here. I'll have a one-to-one with her afterwards. We'll have a chat. All right? Okay? And what happened is I'm going to tell you how that probably happened. So what kind of happened? It was probably one day. Shush. It's only for another 10 minutes. You can handle it. So what happens is little Johnny's in school with his mates, and then he says to his mates he thinks there's a monster under his bed. And his mate says to him, there ain't a monster under your bed. And little Johnny looks at him and thinks, oh, maybe there ain't a monster under my bed. So he starts to think a new idea. Yeah, you're going to remember this. Think a new idea. Then what happens, yeah, he's been thinking this idea, and then he goes home to his mum, because his mum is like the Two Saints worker that can help him. And he says to his mum, I think there might not be a monster under the bed. And she says, yeah, you're right, Johnny, there isn't a monster under the bed. Because if there was a monster under the bed, your bed would probably move about a bit, because monsters are quite big. And if there was a monster under your bed, you'd probably be able to hear it, because they're a little bit gruffy. So then she probably says, what you may need to do is have a look under the bed. So what Johnny first of all done was he thought maybe it wasn't. And then he shared it and said it to his mum. And then his mum gave him an action. And then what probably happened was little Johnny got the courage to bend down and look under the bed. And poof, the fear disappears. And the reason why the fear disappears is because it's factual evidence that's actually real. So what's happened is looked and seen and realised there's nothing else, there's nothing there. That is how we overcome fear. So what I'm going to do is, because this isn't a long talk, okay, so I've got about 10 minutes, I'm going to give you some examples of how maybe you can overcome your fear of being able to change and what change looks like. So when I decided to change, I had no qualifications. I had no education. And the reason why I had no education is because I spent my life in the ways that everybody in this room understands. But what kind of happened was I started to think to myself, maybe, a little bit like Johnny did, maybe I could get an education. And then what I did was I then started to share it and say that with people like the Two Saints staff and other people. And do you know what they said? They said, do you know what, Geff? We think you could answer that phone. They said, we think you could have an education. And I say then, at this point, what we do is when we go through change, is I put on what I call a big rubber band, All right, imagine a big elastic band. We know elastic bands? I've got a big elastic band around my waist, And what it is there's a concrete post. Can you all see that concrete post? Yeah, the ice cream was good then. All right, so on this concrete post is my old way of living. And I've got an elastic band around my waist. So what it is I'm saying to these people, I think I could have a qualification. And they say, yeah, Geff, I think you could. And this is maybe what you're going to have to do. And what they're trying to get me to do is overcome my fear. Because my head is saying to me, you will not succeed. You will not get that qualification. So what happens is when I'm talking to these lovely people, because I'm thinking it, I'm now saying it, and they're saying to me, you need to get on and do it. And they're saying you need to go to college. So I'll take a step on my elastic band. What happens when you push against an elastic band? Starts to stretch, doesn't it? Starts trying to pull you back, you know. You've had a load of elastic bands, you know, don't you? Okay, so yeah, it's trying to pull me back, all right? And what it is I remember going to college, and I was about 35 then. Everybody else must have been about 18, 19, 20, something like that. I felt like really old. I felt really out of place. I felt really kind of like I didn't fit in. I shouldn't be there. My head is going, Geff, what's the point? Why even bother? It's my elastic band. My elastic band's trying to pull me back. But what I'm doing is I keep thinking in my head, no, I am going to get a qualification. I'm sharing it with the people that want to support and help me, and they're saying, Geff, take another step. And I'll take my first qualification. I'll take my first exam. And I pass. I'll do a maths exam, and I pass. Somebody said they was thick and they was stupid and they could never achieve. And then what I did was I then spoke to them and I said, I think I could have some more. And they said, I think you can, Geff. And maybe what you need to do is this. What happens when you keep on pushing on an elastic band? Snaps. Today, I do not believe I'm thick. I do not believe I'm stupid. I do not believe I will never achieve. Today I've educated myself to the equivalent of a degree. And I did that by thinking it, saying it, and doing it. Let me give you another example. When I decided that I was going to turn my life around, I thought maybe I need to have a job. So guess what I put on? My rubber band. Because my head said to me, who's going to employ you, Geffin? You've got 56 offences, you've got 18 convictions, you spent 8 years of your life behind a prison wall, you've been locked up for possession with intent to supply Class A controlled drugs, and lots of other stuff. Who is going to give you a job? So that's what this elastic band was saying. But I thought, maybe I can. So I started to share it. Two Saints message, where are you? Staff again, put your hands in the air. People like you. Started to share it with people like you and said, do you know what? I think I could have a job. And they said to me, do you know what, Geff? We think you can too. I started to say it. I started to get it out of my head and start to actually say it. And they said to me, what you maybe need to do is this, Geff. And they sort of recommended I went and done a bit of volunteering. I have to say, I was like one of them people, volunteering? I ain't working for nothing. Do you know who I am? Why would I want to do that? Because I thought I was all the way up here when actually I was all the way down there, do you know? But what I did was I sort of opened my mind and thought, actually, maybe I haven't got all the answers and these people know a little bit more than me, so I put on my rubber band and I went out and done some volunteering. 2 hours a week volunteering. I have to say that 2 hours was the most uncomfortable 2 hours of my life.
What did you do?
I was working at a fiberglass shop. Very exciting, okay? But I remember what was most uncomfortable about it was that I was with normal people. And these normal people talked. But I didn't know how to communicate with them because unless you wanted to talk about prison, drugs or crime, I was your man. You want to talk about how to grow a cucumber, I ain't got no answer for that. None whatsoever. So when I was in there, I was that person, you know, I used to have the digits, I'd be standing here like this, lean up there, and I'd move over there, and I'd sit over here, you know, because I was just uncomfortable. And that was my rubber band, because my mind was saying to me, Geff, why even bother getting a job? Just go back to crime. You know that you can kind of make easy money. Go back to selling drugs. Go back to what it is that you know. But what I did was I kept on doing it, and I kept on sharing it with the people and going, do you know, I really want a job. And they said, yes, Geff, and you can have a job. Keep on doing this. I took that 2 hours a week volunteering. So listen to this. I was volunteering a 40-hour week. Yeah, a full week volunteering. I remember other people in there going to me, are you mad? Why would you want to work all week and get no money? But trust me, what I was learning about myself, priceless, absolutely priceless. And what happened was because I kept thinking it, I kept on saying it, I kept on doing it, and I was pushing on that elastic band. What happened to the elastic band? Snapped. See, you know, have you heard this talk before? Okay, so what kind of happened, yeah? From that volunteering, I ended up going and getting my first part-time job. And within 7 years, I went from part-time to full-time, to being a team leader, to being a manager, and until in the end, I was a service manager within Portsmouth City Council and Public Health, overseeing a staff team of 40 to reduce the health inequalities to the most deprived areas of the city I lived in. Somebody that had been in prison for 8 years. Do you know what? I am not unique. I am absolutely not unique. I have sat exactly where every single one of you is sitting here today. And I know that every single one of you in this room has the potential and possibility to be anything you want to be. I want you to go away from this talk today thinking 3 things. And that's think it, say it, and do it. Think positive. This man's on the ball, okay? Because what I'll say to you, yeah, right, is this. If you're just thinking it, nothing will change because your mind will talk yourself out of it and no one will ever know. If you're just saying it, we all know that one, don't we? If you're just saying it, people get bored of listening because you're just saying the same old stuff. But when you actually get on and do it, people become inspired. People want to help. People want to support. People want to help get you to the next level. So ladies and gentlemen, every single one of you in this room has the potential to be more and do more. And you can do that by thinking it, saying it and doing it. I believe in you. The 2 Saint staff believe in you. And I wish you well in the future. Thank you.